So in the next, I think, 45 minutes to 1 hour, we'll go through the wholesale panel, significant influence in the era of multi-connectivity. We all know that when we talk about wholesale, immediately we think about big connectivity, the satellite services, the submarine cables, the data centers, the digital hubs, the internet exchanges, and the evolution of this industry. We, the wholesale, I had the wholesale for Salam, and we, the wholesale, usually we are the enabler for our company. We have the internal customer, which is our internal company, and we have also the external customers that we serve. So with our panelists, we'll discuss today the key trends in wholesale, and we'll start from the digital infrastructure, and then we'll move into the satellite, or we'll mix between the two areas. And also we'll talk about some software solutions, with Netcracker also being with us on the panel. So I'll start with you, Amaru, regarding the key trends in the digital infrastructure and telecom industry. How are they influencing your telecom wholesale business strategies and your priorities?
Yes, thank you, Georgios. Indeed, an interesting question, because everything that we do has to have a positive impact in the communities that we serve. And when we see that the new emerging technologies are always getting closer and closer to every subscriber in the world, we have to make sure that we are providing the right infrastructure, not only for the traffic, but for the resiliency. Nowadays, we're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, we're talking a lot about AI, we're talking a lot about cloud computing, blockchain, and in order to serve our communities better, we have to make sure that, number one, we have the links, the capacity, the resiliency, the internet exchanges necessary to bring this to our markets. Bayobab serves Africa mainly as part of the MTN group, and our main objective is to make sure that we are providing equal access to a digitally connected life to all of our subscribers. So yes, we have to be keeping up with the new trends, the new technologies, and make sure that we provide the right infrastructure.
Okay, maybe Simon, you want to tell us about Verizon perspective about the key trends shaping the digital infrastructure and telecom industry and how they are influencing telecom wholesale business strategies?
Certainly, George, sure. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's lovely to, yes, to address this audience. For Verizon, I think there are so many priorities at the moment. As a vertically integrated telco in the US, we need to play in lots of different spaces. And so there's a very long list of priorities, but probably to boil those down to the few which are really top of mind for us as a wholesaler. I think, first of all, our 5G network in the US, we've spent a very large amount of money in terms of acquiring spectrum and then in deploying that 5G network. We're really proud of the way it's built. We've rolled it out across very large areas of the US now. Our C-band capability, bringing speeds that we've never seen before for our consumer and also our enterprise customers. And for us, that's our number one priority as a business. It's about making sure that we use that asset wisely, that we get the return on investment that's needed within that. And that opens up a number of wholesale opportunities for us in the US in terms of fixed wireless access. I was interested yesterday to see Kareem's do his presentation around fixed wireless access and how that is seen as a real engine of growth here in this market. We see exactly the same in Verizon, that will give us entry into a whole bunch of new markets that we haven't been able to compete in before, where we've had no wireline infrastructure. Yeah. And so we're on a mission to deploy that as quickly as we can. And I think lots of our customers are coming with us, which is fantastic. They want that higher bandwidth. They want that low latency service. And we're seeing that at the enterprise scale, but also we're seeing it with consumers. Consumers are making that move up to the next level. And so that's a hugely important focus for us. And with that 5G capability comes the ability for edge networks, for IoT, for compute capabilities at the edge of the cloud. So we're extremely excited about all of those things that are coming together beyond that 5G capability.
And as Verizon Wholesale, you also serve other licensed operators in the United States, for example, right?
Yeah, very much so. It's our largest wholesale market is within the US, and we supply those 5G services. Clearly, there are other 5G operators there, and so it's a competitive marketplace that we're in. But we're confident that the rate at which we've built and also the spectrum that we've acquired really gives us that competitive advantage to roll out some sort of differentiated services. So very excited about that as I guess, our #1 strategic priority.
Okay. Sameh, from PCCW perspective, the key trends.
Hi, George.
Hi.
You know that PCCW Global, we invested 4 years back in our software-defined network platform. We acquired it from Australian company, and we have been working very hard over the past 4 years in developing the software. The software itself, it gives the automation for all the cloud providers, wholesale carriers as well, and it provides seamless connectivity across the platform. It facilitates as well seamless interconnection between different operators. The automation is transforming the delivery of connectivity and services across the different cloud providers and hyperscalers, IXs, internet exchanges, and so many ecosystems, partners. And these are trends for us to transfer from our wholesale business, traditional business, into the automation and the SDN software.
Yeah, okay, good. Talking a little bit about satellite, Hassan. So what do you think are the trends for satellite connectivity to reach directly the mobile devices, and the differences between the non-geostationary orbit and the satellite connectivity, which is direct to the mobile? What are the key trends there?
Thank you, George, and thank you, Tony and Telecom Review, for the opportunity. Always great to be here.
Yeah.
Before answering your question, George, I tried over these 2 days to capture some of the points that were discussed and that we are all expecting from telecom operators, okay? I will go through the list.
Yeah.
We are asking the telecom operator to do more investment, right?
Right.
Bringing more new technologies, more capacity, more coverage. Their board are definitely asking them for more revenue in a profitable way. The regulator is asking them for quality of service, license obligations, in a sustainable way, you know. It's like a long list of what is being expected from telecom operator, and you know, the formula is becoming like operator are being asked to do more for less, okay? So it's really becoming a very challenging context. Why I'm listing all of this? Because simply now we are tapping into a new layer for connectivity that was not there. I still remember the time when mobile technology was introduced. All those who were working in the fixed were like worried and concerned seeing the fast growth of mobile.
Correct.
And with time we discovered that when we reach like technology and capacity limitation on the mobile, fixed was also needed, and both were needed. And then different layers of different technologies were also needed. So now there is a new layer that was untapped and is coming to the to the world of connectivity. Now, whether this is coming from satellite or through different other technology like ours, which is the HAPS technology, that is more efficient and very interesting. So personally, as you know me, George, I'm coming from the world of telecom.
Yes.
And from the operator
Mobile,
world.
yeah.
I was like really seduced by this fascinating technology that is coming now to the world. And this will change the world of technology, adding a new layer to it. So going back to your question, now these non-terrestrial solutions are all very interesting. And I would say the same what we have seen or what we have witnessed on the fixed and mobile, we will see also on these layers, different layers. They are all needed and they will complement each other. Now, going back to our solution, as you know, we have an aircraft that will fly at the level of stratosphere and will provide connectivity to all areas that were not previously covered. 1/3 of the world population are still not served. And that was for different reasons, whether economical reason, because I know in the past when I was like managing telecom operations, I know that we will not go in an area where it is not making economical sense to develop the network. So imagine that now there is a solution whereby you have a tower in the sky that will provide connectivity to Earth and will make you reach places where you were unable to reach, not only for economic reason, but also for different other challenges when it comes to providing terrestrial tower, like landscape, like conflicts, like there are many reasons that will prevent coverage from terrestrial solution. So this platform will provide a coverage for 7,500 square kilometer and will serve places where coverage was not there. I would say that this is very interesting and really needed and will tackle all the list of challenges that I mentioned, especially that it's fully powered, solar powered, zero emission, and it will tackle all the targets that are expected from telecom operators.
And it's a direct to the mobile, right?
And the beauty of our solution is that it is direct
to the mobile,
to the device. You know, Airbus have been working on this product for the last 18 years. So you can imagine how long it will take in order to reach the perfection of this aircraft. It's a beautiful solution.
Okay, thanks. So maybe I ask Imran from SES about about the trends in NGSO connectivity and satellite connectivity direct to the device.
Hi. So first of all, thank you, George. As always, a pleasure seeing you again, and thank you to Tony for inviting us and giving us this opportunity. Before I directly address your question, I just wanted to also point out some of the trends in satellites which are enabling operators like Verizon and MTN, Etisalat, etc. Satellite was always considered to be a dirty word because the cost involved and because of the infrastructure that needed to be deployed. And in the wholesale world, satellite was always considered to be something of a last resort. So in the last couple of years, the trend that has emerged, especially with new players coming in, although I'm with SCS, but at the moment I'm representing the entire satellite industry. So one of the biggest trends that has emerged is that satellite is becoming now more mainstream. It's not just pushed towards the edge of the network, but it has now a role to play, especially with the standardization, especially with the ability of the newer constellations to be able to lower the latency and provide higher throughput to be able to be part of the mainstream. So that is the biggest trend that is emerging. And we were just talking about Verizon uses SES medium Earth orbit for disaster recovery, not just to recover a very small hamlet, but to be able to recover the services for a very large part of the US where a natural disaster has occurred. So there's this trend recently emerging in satellite communications, which is now making it more and more mainstream, more and more affordable, and also be compatible with the networks to be able to orchestrate it using software. Now, coming back to your question about direct-to-device, in our opinion, there are significant regulatory challenges for it, and also significant technical challenges as well. Direct-to-device is very limited at the moment. There are only a few operators who have embraced it. It is at the moment relegated to emergency services. As technology improves and as regulations are, I guess, more conducive, then we would see more and more direct-to-device. But at the moment, significant regulatory challenges, especially in this part of the world, but also in a lot of other parts of the world as well, and also technical issues as well.
Okay. You and SES, you are more into the non-geostationary satellites, right?
So SES is considered to be the old satellite world because we have been around for approximately 35 years, and we pioneered direct-to-home services using geostationary satellites.
Oh, okay.
So geostationary is still one of our core businesses. We operate more than 50 satellites in the GSO orbit. However, we have, for the last 10 years, we've been operating a medium Earth orbit constellation, which is 8,000 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. We're able to lower the latency significantly and provide higher throughput. In fact, the success of our medium Earth orbit constellation has paved the way for all of the big LEOs that have followed us.
Do you own also still the constellation of O3b?
Yes, so O3b is the medium Earth orbit constellation that SES acquired.
Yes, okay.
That's been almost 11 years old, and now we're launching the second generation of the medium Earth orbit constellation called mPOWER. So,
mPOWER, okay.
So, but what I would like to stress is there's room for everyone. There's room for HAPS, there's room for LEO, there's room for MEO, there's room for GEO, and it's mainly because of the operators like you that you have grown the pie to every year more and more connectivity is required.
Sure. So Amaru, as you know, 5G is expanding. All the operators are focused on 5G, on the last mile, on investments in last mile, and getting more and more data towards the end customer. What are the innovative approaches that you are using to enhance the connectivity as a wholesale for the consumer and the corporates?
Yes, thank you. Let me start with something so basic everybody is aware of, so apologies for overstating the obvious. 4G and 5G are basically mobile air interfaces. I always keep repeating that. I used to be CTO in the mobile world for many years. So that's between your mobile and the antenna. What happens beyond that is the backhauling, and that's where we play. So basically, in order to deploy 4G and 5G, any operator in the world needs a very strong, let's call it the backhaul network, from terrestrial to subsea, or to satellites. Yes, it has been explained very clearly here, the field where the satellite technology plays. However, on the, let's call it on the more terrestrial side, we have to make sure that we have enough capacity. That's the name of the game. We cannot do anything without capacity. We start from there. And also, how we can innovate on these matters. I can tell you a couple of things. Number one, if we go to Africa again, our main focus is in Africa. We are partnering with several subsea cable systems, including to Africa, the largest subsea cable in the world. That is run by Meta. We are one of the consortium partners, and we're bringing all that capacity to Africa, as well as Equiano, which is also known as the Google subsea cable. Besides that, we are also expanding our DWDM networks, just the terrestrial network, to very soon surpass 135,000 kilometers of terrestrial fiber in Africa, but that's only capacity. So I'm not talking about innovation yet. Now, how we can innovate? We innovate on the platform side. We innovate by deploying our brand new IPX hub to facilitate IP exchange with other operators and customers. We innovate by deploying our own SMS hubs and voice hubs localized in Africa, so we keep the African traffic in Africa rather than, I always call it the tromboning the traffic to Europe or to the Americas and back to Africa. And I'm sorry, and also innovate on how we provide security. Nowadays, cybersecurity is a big issue.
Yeah, that's a very important subject.
And we are facing that everywhere, not only in our operations, all over the world. So basically, one of our innovations is to provide a very strong DDoS type of security and other layers of cybersecurity to protect our markets and our customers. So I always say that all of us here are a techno-telco company one way or another, and innovation has to be in our DNA, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So we keep on providing basically more access, easier access, open access to everybody. As I mentioned before, we have to make sure that everybody has access to a digital connected life. But at the same time, we have to keep an eye on how to make it cost efficient, so we do not leave any community outside of these new developments. And also, we have to make it in accordance to the regulations, which is always kind of a challenging issue. So.
Okay, thank you, good. And Simon, what are the innovative approaches in in connectivity you're doing as a wholesaler?
Yeah, so probably a couple of areas I'd mention, George. I think, first of all, in our fixed connectivity. So we're growing services such as 400 gig we've recently launched. We have a number of services that are in deployment at the moment, and on our roadmap around software-defined networks. So really looking at that whole customer journey from quote to order to provision to in-life management, zero touch, paying for what you use. So I think probably things that you've heard from other speakers as well already. So we're certainly on those journeys around our network, and that's hugely important to us around making sure we can address the need for this exponential bandwidth growth that's out there. To try and sound a bit more exciting amongst these satellite folks who I think have the monopoly on exciting things. One of the things we are doing is in our 5G capability. We've launched a private 5G capability, which for us is a real engine of growth. And what our private 5G will do, it will take, for instance, a manufacturing site or a university campus or a hospital or a defined geographical area, and then deploy 5G services specifically for the use privately of that organization. And I'll just talk about one particular use case that we've had. A customer in the UK, Associated British Ports, have recently deployed private 5G. The first one they've rolled out is Southampton, which is a large container and passenger port. Huge amount of traffic goes through there. And we've deployed a private 5G network with our partners that we use to deploy that. And it will bring them the ability for autonomous vehicles. It will bring us them the ability for all of their people to securely communicate across the port. They're rolling out a number of applications on it for security purposes, to make sure that they are both physical and cyber environments are catered for.
That's you're mentioning in Southampton in the UK?
Yeah, Southampton, very close to where I live on the south coast.
Okay.
And a huge amount of container traffic and also cars for import and export go through the port. And so they're using it for asset tracking through that. And so we've deployed this network, and then it's really a platform for them to be able to build on. And we see this as a kind of wholesale play. We've sold this on a direct retail basis, but this is something we're taking now as a wholesale play out to our other operators, and we can offer that expertise in terms of deploying this type of environment, whether it's in the US or outside of our home market, and we can use the spectrum that's an operator may have to be able to do that.
Now, to backhaul 5G cell sites, do you use mainly fiber in the United States? It's mainly based on fiber, or there are also some wireless connectivity to backhaul the 5G base stations?
Yeah, nearly all of it is fiber-based. So most of what we've done has been about fiber deployment to give the cell site densification that we need.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say the vast majority fiber-based.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Maybe Sameh, you want to mention a few words about the innovative approaches, or maybe you want to mention something you did with a licensed operator in the region, because PCCW is a carrier's carrier here in this.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right. You spotted right. You know that we work mainly with our partners here in the region, and we are establishing with them a lot of subsea cable projects jointly. The recent one was the Peace Cable, where we discussed it last year. It's a private cable that starts in Pakistan, going to Kenya, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Cyprus, Malta, Tunisia, Marseille. And now we are working on a phase 2 where we extend it from Pakistan to Singapore. And of course, we do work with the local operators here very close. There are another couple initiatives that we are working with to expand our software network, to reach or to expand our existing network capabilities and to keep the traffic intra-region as much as we can. We have Colson Connect now. We deployed across all the Middle East. The recent one was in Djibouti and in Aqaba as well. We are crossing border with 3 different countries. We already successfully deployed our Console Connect platform in Egypt as well. Dubai, Saudi, etc. Qatar as well is on our roadmap. So we are doing our best in order to come closer to our partners and to the end users as well.
Okay, excellent. So Arif, as a software or as a vendor in the area of as an IT supplier, you support hundreds of operators across the globe, right? As Netcracker.
Yeah, we do.
So what are some of the key business models and technology trends you are seeing in the wholesale market?
Thanks, George. I'm probably the anomaly in the room here because it's all operators, I'm the only vendor here. But it gives us a unique perspective because we work with about 250 operators globally. So when I talk about innovation and when we talk about where it's going, I'm going to do that based on, pick 2 examples of doing that. Now in telecom, they say, right, there's only 2 ways to make money. Either you bundle or you unbundle. There's no other way.
Bundle or unbundle?
Bundle or unbundle.
Okay.
There's no other way to make money. Either your companies are buying acquisitions and then growing in that context. I'll give an example of that. Or you are separating your assets. So for example, the NetCo-ServCo thing, the separation of assets in traditional telcos that we see in the market. So I'm going to pick 2 examples. Both are customers. The first one I'm going to pick is T-Mobile US, which is a wireless carrier, and carrier in the US market. Very much a consumer brand, went ahead and brought Sprint, for example, one of the largest acquisitions in the US market. We changed the landscape completely. And from a consumer brand, they started to, there was a wholesale side of the business. With the T-Mobile, with the Sprint acquisition, it expanded in a bigger way. So they're now providing to the enterprises fixed wireless access. They are providing the network as a platform, and they're saying, okay, any brand can come, we have excess capacity, we will enable you to launch any of the MVNOs that you run. They're running most of the MVNOs in the US market with Verizon and others, but they have a lot of that. They're using network slicing to provide ultra-low latency kind of services with guarantees for some of their IoT players that they enable, plus a whole bunch of other enterprises that they're enabling. So therefore, them, use our network, we have excess capacity, come, and we will enable you. And that's how they're kind of growing. They're growing exponentially in that market, and they're pretty much competing head-on with the other wholesale providers in the market, in the US market. And their Un-carrier brand, which any of the North American operators will tell you has eaten their lunch for AT&T, Verizon, whoever. Again, I'm saying all that because AT&T, Verizon, both are our customers as well, but that's what's happening. You look at the numbers, subscribers are growing on that side. They're taking that same Un-carrier approach to the enterprise market. So it's a wireless provider providing wholesale, and they're expanding that in very different ways. The other example I'm going to pick up is a wireline operator or a full-service operator in the Danish market, in the Copenhagen market.
Okay.
They are the incumbent there. It's a 125-year-old operator, TDC Net. And recently, they were a vertically stacked, typical incumbent operator who had everything. Valuation and private equity, as well as multiples, dictate that they unbundle. So what they did was they separated their entire network into Netco as a network site, so the TDC Net just maintains the network as a wholesale provider, and the SurfCo, which is the new brand, which is New Day. And they have 8 or 9 other brands within that. And it works as, you can think of that as an old school MVNO, but all these brands are working and they're just running services for them. And the TDC Net is just providing Netco. The reason is the EBITDA for pure Netco is 5 times more. And the multiples are about 3 times or 4 times more than a traditional operator. And you'll see this Netco SurfCo, where network guys are just becoming a wholesale provider, and they're buying infra-core tower companies, et cetera, providing private networks, enabling other enterprises, and all of that. The multiples are a lot higher. And we see that with our other customer, Telenet, who has rolled out their, with the Netco, I forgot the name, what they're calling it, iSystems, a whole bunch of others who are doing that. And again, that's a trend that we see as well, which is becoming very, very dominant. The overall market, right? It's a tough market. I think everybody's going to agree. Wholesale market is tough.
Yes, a lot of pricing pressures, etc.
It's a pricing. It's a race to the bottom.
Yes.
So what do you do here, right? You are enabling cloud-based services, working with hyperscalers. We see a lot of that for eSIM and SIM for roaming in other markets. When you talk about voice connectivity and roaming for other markets, different operators working with the ecosystem, working together. All of these are great, right? There's different models out there. But the end of the day, and we can get to that later, is really about how your underlying systems are supporting all these things. Because at the end of the day, whether you're selling wholesale or consumer, whatever, you need simplicity and automation of your systems. How can you order the systems? How can you provision? What's the catalog? How quickly can you do the revenue split? How quickly can you enable the partnership models? How does AI and others come into play to provide a more consistent user experience or enterprise experience in that case? So I think innovation needs to be supported by the right transformation on the IT side as well. And without these two, it's just like, it's not going to work.
Okay, thank you. Very insightful. For satellite connectivity, Hassan, maybe you can give us some examples of collaboration between mobile operators and satellite operators.
Of course, we are having currently a very close collaboration with one of a large MNO group of MNO in the world for testing the direct-to-device connectivity with Deutsche Telekom. And we are also working with a Japanese operator in order also to, we have a plan working on some trials as well. So this is like really what we are seeing is a wow effect from both telecom operators and regulator, because this, what we are bringing to the world of connectivity is really needed and filling a gap.
Yeah.
And you know, when we were talking about like security and sovereignty, you know, these are very hot topic today. So our solution is bringing connectivity to the same environment of a country where the platform will be part of the telecom infrastructure that will be in that country. You know, so connectivity is not outside; it's part of the network.
Yeah.
For regulator, they see this as an important element for like security of telecommunication. In addition to that, no need to issue new frequency or new license. We will be using the same frequency of the current frequency of the operators. So the operators, our partners, will be using the same frequency. Being closer to Earth will also make our solution providing a very efficient connectivity with a very good latency. You know, it's like in addition to that, what we have is when we were talking about one platform or one aircraft as a failure, will be covering 7,500 square kilometers. This could replace between 70 to 200 terrestrial tower of coverage.
Yeah.
Wherever you have this number of towers, we have like the need for this number of towers. Our solution will be very cost efficient for telecom operator. So that's why what we are seeing currently is that when we are in discussion and engagement with telecom operator and with the regulators, there is like, wow, when can we have this?
And one aircraft you can use it for multiple countries, let's say in the Gulf, if you put it...
it depends on the, you know...
on the regulator.
You can have it for multiple countries if we are saying that this coverage is beyond the country, but it's more about the different use that we have. As you know, we are talking about only one use case, which is now connectivity, but this aircraft could be utilized for different use case. And we are like, the more we engage, the more we discover there are like lots of needs for this. In addition to connectivity for telecom operator, there is Earth observation, as you know, and Earth observation is very important. RTA, for example, they are interested for our aircraft to observe the traffic. Border control, IoT connectivity for agriculture field. Firefighters, they would like to have early signals for smoke and fire. You know, it's like in addition to government use and defense and military.
Yes.
So there are multiple use for this platform, and it's really very interesting because there is like really this solution is coming to fill a layer that was not utilized before, and it's now very interesting to see that there is a solution for that.
And what is the projected ready for service date?
This is an interesting topic because this is the hottest topic now for us.
Yes.
As you know, this is like an aircraft that is beautifully designed to be a very light aircraft. It has a weight of 75 kilograms. So this aircraft will need a very special weather conditions to launch it. And to reach, as you know, we will be, the aircraft will be flying at the stratosphere level. So we are now currently developing different AALTO port, what we call AALTO port, which is launch and landing facility, in different places in the world where you can launch from one country and land the aircraft in another country based on weather conditions. So this will require lots of work in order to prepare all these facilities, in addition to all licensing and authorization that are needed. And this is where we are today. So we are building operations for AALTO port in different places in the world where the weather condition will give us the largest window. And in the meantime, as you are saying, there is like this discussion that we are having with different operators and MNOs and government. There is a need for this, and they want us to accelerate the plan.
Okay.
So our expected entry into service, hopefully in 2025.
2025, okay,
Yes.
good, interesting. We'll be waiting.
You are not the only one.
Yeah. Okay, Imran.
So I just wanted to point out there's a close relationship between mobile network operators and satellite service providers because traditionally, if you wanted to go into geographically challenged areas, then satellite was the only means to provide the backhauling, starting from 2G, then going on to 3G, then going on to 4G. But as we have progressed from, the world has moved on from 2G to 3G to 4G
Yes.
and beyond, the requirements have increased. The applications are now much more latency sensitive. So the innovations on the satellite side have enabled the transition. At SCS, we have been able to provide large amounts of throughput at a lower latency using our medium Earth orbit constellation. And now we have LEO operators who are also able to provide largish throughput at an even lower latency. So this collaboration has been increasing. And I think what will be happening in the near future is, to Simon's point, private 5G is where we feel that there's going to be a big growth area. We are seeing this in the natural resources industry and also in the oil and gas industry as well. But there is an inflection point in the satellite industry which is related to the Earth stations, the ground segment. At the moment, the ground segment is still the clunky parabolic antennas, and as we progress to the electronically steerable antennas, to more and more efficient flat panel antennas, the capacity that is being brought in by SES and by lots of other operators is going to go into the mainstream. I mean, I envision a day when the operators will have a choice between deploying microwave in an urban area, or they choose satellite. And microwave, although at the moment it's cheaper, but still requires a lot of infrastructure. And when these satellites will be able to provide the same amount of efficiency, same amount of throughput at the lower latency, then it would be a very, very viable choice. So the cooperation between MNOs and satellite industry is going to increase, not decrease.
Excellent. Okay. Now, a topic that I like in fixed operators, which is the internet exchanges and digital hubs. Maybe, Amaru, you tell us a bit about Africa and Bayobab. I'm not very familiar with Africa internet exchange points. What are the famous locations?
Yes, certainly. let me take it from one step before that. Yes, we in Bayobab, we partner a lot with hyperscalers. We partner a lot with the Googles of the world, the Microsoft, the Metas, and besides serving the MTN opcos, besides being open access and serving other telcos, and other tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 IPXs. So we are on that playing field. And in order to serve the hyperscalers, reach out to our 300 million subscribers of the MTN group and the 1.3 billion subscribers in Africa, we have to provide basically the 3 top things that every hyperscaler needs. Again, sorry for over-repeating myself, is capacity. That's the name of the game. You must have capacity. Number 2, you must have resiliency. Number 3, you must have reachability. And if I may add a 4th item, latency. Because you can have capacity with a very poor latency and you will not be providing a very good service. So based on that, yes, our plan with the hyperscalers has been to provide the IP exchange, to provide our own IP exchange network, which went live was revamped and went live not long ago, and also provide access to the multiple data centers that we manage.
But where are the locations, for example, of these exchange points in Africa with Bayobab?
Yes, we have one in Kenya, in Nairobi, and we are in the process of announcing soon, and I should not steal anybody else's thunder, in the South Africa and in Nigeria. Okay. Please don't make it as part of the headlines, because my boss will be the one announcing that. And we will continue because, as you know, as part of the MTN Group, we have access to a large number of data centers that we are taking over now, that we are developing for other purposes besides serving the mobile network operators, and that will be used along with our very strong presence on the subsea cable footprint. That will be used to continue expanding the IP exchange presence. Besides that, we are also partnering with tier 1, tier 2 ISPs to make sure that we have a proper coverage. And I have to underline this with the proper latency, because one of the big issues is that you might have a presence, you might have capacity, but when something breaks, because things do break, terrestrial cables and subsea cables break, and the backup routes are basically providing very poor latency, then the whole ecosystem goes down the drain. So we have to continue.
Are you connected to the internet exchanges in the region, like Datamina, Smart Hub, the exchanges in Oman and Saudi Arabia, etc.?
Yes, we are connected with a few exchanges in the region, mostly in Africa and in Europe.
Okay. Good. Maybe Simon, internet exchange points. I know Verizon is coming from the legacy, huge legacy of MCI. You are the leader of the internet backbone, right?
Yep. Yeah, we have some history there. But yeah, we're in Datamina. We also we have we're a consortium member on EIG and into Marseille as our owned cable landing station.
Yes.
And that's really important for us to the region in terms of backhaul back to European destinations. So we're, it's kind of one of our key wholesale plays in the region is about that connectivity back to the major European capitals as well. In terms of our relationship with the hyperscalers, I think that's an interesting one. It's very much a symbiotic relationship, I think, where absolutely they drive a huge amount of the usage that we see on our networks, and so it's phenomenally valuable to them. In return, we obviously provide that access for those consumers to be able to consume that content, and so I think we just see that relationship as growing. Clearly, it's one that there's a competitor collaborator kind of element to, and I guess that's nothing new to us working in a wholesale environment. But I think it's an area that's just going to grow and grow really in terms of the amount of throughput that it creates, and then the amount of need for interconnection, whether it's via IPX or otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Simon. And Sameh, I'm sure you are very much involved here for many years with the operators of the region, and you are helping digital hubs, internet exchanges. If you want to tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, very true, George. Console Connect and PCCW has established a global network NAS platform to enable secure and on-demand to all the major data centers and IXs all over the world. Just to give you a figure, we have over 900 data centers across 60 countries, in addition to 15 global IXs interconnected to the platform. And this is one of the new initiatives to support and enable seamless user experience to access the internet exchanges.
Yeah. And any specific example on your I think you did a project in Aqaba, right?
Yes, correct. Aqaba is our latest project. Aqaba has a very unique geographic place because we are interconnected through different neighborhood countries. And we also interconnected with the domestic operators in Jordan. Apart, as you mentioned, from Data MENA Smart Hub, we are already there. In Oman, in Econex, we are there. In Egypt, although it's not I would say the neutral facility so far, but there are a couple of hyperscalers that we have a direct interconnection with them in new areas in Egypt. So we are trying, as I mentioned last time, to come closer and closer to our partners and our consumers.
Great. So Ari, about Netcracker, and how do you see the IT, the OSS, BSS requirements evolving with changes in the wholesale industry?
Yeah, and if we've heard from everybody here, I mean, some of the requirements become very clear, right? It needs to evolve as well, right? The IT industry, the BSS and OSS needs to be partner-driven. We talked about more interconnectivity, more working with other partners, hyperscalers, etc. Partner onboarding, managing partners, all of that as part of your IT system becomes very, very critical because you're going to add more and more. Multi-tenancy of your software systems becomes important because let's say you are enabling through wholesale an MVNO or an enterprise customer or a new brand. It could be, I don't know, a supermarket brand launching their MVNO. You want to provide a multi-tenanted version of the IT platform to them so that they don't need to go and invest in their own revenue management, order management, activation, provisioning, all of those systems. How can you, and you cannot provide a multi-tenant platform if you do not have a cloud-native platform in the first place with the wholesale provider. So obviously the requirements increase, but the different facets of the platform needs to change as well. So more partner-centric, multi-tenancy. Obviously, service fulfillment or activation or cross-domain activation becomes important because is it an edge cloud-based services? Are you providing network slices as part of these services? How do you activate all of these IoT devices? Also provide an SLA on top of it. So your closed-loop fulfillment, assurance, etc., becomes very much part of these applications and how you provide that. So different things that have evolved to make the operators more and more competitive. The other part is when you're talking network as a service, network as a platform, which people talked about, you need to have an open ecosystem, open play, so that open APIs, because you are now exposing some of those functionalities to your developer community or to the enterprise community or whatever. How do you charge for that? How would you bill for those things? So I think the cloud-native aspect, the multi-tenancy aspect of it, more partner-centric approach becomes very critical. Okay. Fulfillment and automation is a key enabler. And when we talk about that, it's really about end-to-end service management, which is, at scale, provisioning devices and endpoints, providing network slicing as part of it, tearing down slices if not necessary at some point, right? And obviously making sure that the SLAs are maintained so that there's no penalty attached to that. And how do you maintain all of that? So I think all of these becomes very critical. And without some of these things, the network rollout, the peering, all of these systems will not be effective because at the end, it's not a charity, right? You can't bill for it, it's a charity. And if you cannot charge for it correctly, then all of these things fall. So how do you do that very effectively and very quickly becomes very essential.
Okay, thank you. Hassan, maybe we can ask you a specific question about the HAPS, because we all know that there are aircrafts, but there are also some other companies like Sky and others that are launching balloons, right? What's the difference between these two types of, let's say, non-terrestrial networks, interconnections, or HAPS?
Yes, you know, among the HAPS family, there are different type of HAPS. One that is what we call it lighter than the air, okay? And these are usually like looms and balloons, you know, like these are very difficult and challenging to control. And those who are heavier than air, then this is more controllable. So our Zephyr belong to the second category that we
the
can,
heavier, okay.
the heavier, and that we can control. Now, heavier, relatively speaking, again.
Yes.
Now, just to complement on this, because it's not only the difference between the two, it's also, you know, when you have this solution, regardless of which one, and you are part of an environment where you can provide coverage for areas that were not covered again, and areas that were underserved. If we look at the roadmap today, whether government ambition, whether operator, whether OTT and IoT operators, we all have one target, is to reach with our service the users, the end user, right? What about those who are not yet connected, you know? A couple of weeks ago, we were honored by a visit in our headquarters in Farnborough in the UK of the Minister of Telecommunication in Brazil. His main target and challenge is to provide coverage for 26 million persons that are still not having service and coverage in Brazil.
Wow, 26 million.
26 million. So, as you know, it's like, after all, government, when they would like to reach their population with their e-government service or whatever, education, health service, you need to have coverage and you need a solution for that. And we tend to have, to take coverage and connectivity for granted, where unfortunately it is not the case for some people in today's world. As we mentioned earlier, still 1/3 of the population are uncovered, and these deserve to receive the same services like the covered one. So I would say that there are still in our industry new trends and new solutions coming. Each time we hear about a new technology, new generation of technology. Now there is a very interesting element coming to our industry, a new layer of connectivity that is coming soon, and we will have to be prepared for it.
For that.
And
okay.
It is being expected.
Okay, thank you. Imran, with the increased innovation in technology, How have satellites evolved, and what role do they play in accelerating digital efficiency and connectivity?
I think the innovation in satellite communications, I believe, has been fueled by a lot of investment that has gone into the industry. So if you look at for the last 10 years, approximately $23 to $24 billion have come into this industry, which has then fueled newer ideas. Part of our success is also innovation because we bet on a medium Earth orbit. When the idea came around, the consensus was it's not going to work. Fortunately for us, we were able to make it work. We were able to make a success out of it. And now the follow-on constellations from LEO are going to be the beneficiaries. So the innovation, like I said a couple of minutes before, from my point of view, the changes on the ground segment, which in my opinion are a couple of years down the road, are what's going to make satellite communications more mainstream. The advent of the likes of Starlink and then Kuiper bring in a huge, deep-pocketed companies with a complete ecosystem of innovation. They are going to further make these changes. So in the complete digital transformation of the industry, I mean, if you look at the 3GPP standards for 5G, satellites are part of them, and the march towards standardization will make it easier for satellite-based circuits to be seamlessly integrated into the terrestrial infrastructure.
Okay,
so
excellent.
good times ahead.
Yes, good times ahead. Excellent. Sameh, we know that there are a lot of hyperscalers and OTTs coming into the Gulf and Middle East region. Have you collaborated or are you serving such OTTs and hyperscalers in this part of the world?
Yes. This has been ongoing for a quite few years right now. We started where our main strengths and the network strengths in Asia, and then it started to evolve globally. But we changed the way we are dealing because in the Middle East, you know that the incumbents have the upper hands in terms of serving the OTTs and the providers. But we find other ways, like I'll go back or refer back to our Console Connect again, a platform, because it helps us to provide other services that we weren't able to provide previously. The integration of the SDN allowed PCCW Global and Console Connect to optimize the network resources for some of allocation for some of the hyperscalers, and automated the service delivery with the hyperscalers. Also, we have been engaged with the several investment projects with them. Through consortiums, through swapping some of the capacity, also by enabling our internet exchange and the platforms which allow the hyperscaler also to use it globally and then within the Middle East region.
Okay, great. And you are also doing a very important initiative in Saudi Arabia and the region. You're landing the peace cable, right?
Yes, the peace cable. This is ongoing. The handover of the project should be by Q1 or maybe earlier in Jan. But there is a new initiative as well, also with some of the Saudi operators, which will be announced very soon, and we are part of it as well.
Really? Other than the peace cable?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
You have to be active, George. Okay.
Okay, that's a good one. Maybe Amaru, can you share a specific connectivity initiative or project where collaboration with partners played a key role in the success of in the wholesale business? Like we sometimes collaborate with other operators to create a connectivity initiative or a project. Can you state one of them?
Yes, although you will have to forgive me if I cannot go into specifics, but
Yes.
I will give you a couple of hints where these things are happening. Number one, not only with the Subsea Consortium, where we're partnering with other operators. I mentioned to Africa, I mentioned Equiano, and I can start mentioning 6 more or 8 more subsea cables where we're actively partnering with other operator and telco groups in Africa. Just to mention a few, the Orange Group, STC. We are doing things together basically to bring connectivity. On the other hand, Africa very badly needs more terrestrial connectivity. And in order to do that, we have some strategic projects. I hope I am not breaking any confidentiality issues here, but we have some strategic projects basically to cover Africa from east to west. And in order to do that, we will have to be traversing countries with very difficult geography and also very difficult regulatory environments. And in order to do that, it is so inefficiently in matter of cost and financials that what makes sense is to partner with others that are going through the same. So on this regard, we are partnering, and here I have to keep the confidentiality, with some other operators to traverse Africa east to west, to traverse Africa south to north, and make sure that we are efficient on what we do. We can approach the different regulatory bodies of the different countries together, and also we are able to explain the value that we will add to the African population should we complete these projects. Yeah, up to that point, I think that I hope I covered your question.
Okay. Ari, back to Netcracker and OSS/BSS. What role will artificial intelligence and advanced analytics play in operators' wholesale strategy?
I think the overall, I mean, there is no, I think, conference or discussion complete nowadays without the discussion around AI or Gen AI and all of that. And I think the most important area that we see where beyond the, the big data analytics and the reporting and all of those things it's always used, is the utilization of some of these newer LLM-centric tools in the call center or the contact center. There is a whole efficiency around it, and there is a whole area where if you use those things correctly, with the telco data, with the personalized data of the enterprise customers, etc., you can create a lot of efficiencies. Divert calls from the call center, reduce average handling time, provide, based on a chatbot, a response in such a way that it looks like a human response back to the enterprise around their consumption pattern, etc. So that's the use case low-hanging where we are working with some of our customers. The other is obviously on the automation side of things. How do you use AI in the right way to provision, to design, from design to quote, all of those things which becomes important. When we talk about the simplicity, which is the most important thing for enterprise and others to order their services, how do you bring AI so that they can measure certain things? How do you personalize that experience for those? It's not just about the consumers, it's about some of the SMBs, some of the enterprises, some of the MVNO customers as well. How do you personalize that, and how do you make it more contextual for them? And the utilization of AI plays a very important role. And the last but not the least, when we talk about proactive assurance, that's an area as well where AI becomes very important. So when you do service management, how do you do that so that you can anticipate the fault, the provision, the problems that might come in the future, and how do you tackle that before it hits some of the service quality metrics? So there's a lot of things that can be done. Right now, we see a lot of interest around Gen AI to use it in the right way, to serve certain things, and the low-hanging fruit on that front tends to be around the contact center optimization, reducing average call handling time, and so on. So.
Excellent. I think we're just on time.
Right on time.
Well
right on time.
Right on time.
Yes. So I don't know, I think we need to conclude, or can we continue, Tony? I mean, we finished the time, so thank you. Okay. Yes.
Probably
Okay.
questions. if you
Maybe questions from the audience, if there is, or there are. Okay, so
It's always tough
Thank you.
before lunch.
Thank you.
so-
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll just pose for a picture on stage.